This gear is a transmission. And yes, as you might suspect, this is also a transmission.
Wait.
What do you think this is?
That's also a transmission.
Wrong, that's half of a transmission. That half over here. So, your little flappy doodles shift knob up here, and that turns into gears. Speed comes out of this end. So that goes out to the wheels. There's a little sensor right here that measures that speed. How? Oh, I have another one. Well, that's weird. I have another. Holy, nope, you're not even interested. This speed sensor goes like that. As this rotates, it slowly moves the speed sensor. Wheels spin, this thing spins. What I did is gave the car a reach around, pulled the wires up through the shift knob area, cut the end off of that, made a long extension cord basically, and brought those two wires from that sensor up to here, which is then connected to a sensor cable and ground. When you spin the tires, the ECU sees up, down, because it's a sine wave pulse, but it really is on, off. Number of times per second equals rotation. What we have to do is we have to get the car running. We have to use GPS, figure out what 50 kilometers an hour is on a nice and straight, consistent road, and then tell the car to learn what 50 kilometers an hour is for each gear. The car then knows RPM, rear wheel speed, what gear you're in. You now have gear selection. What's all that for? I'm not exactly sure. Or is for boost by gear. You have a car like this on the street, 17,000 pounds of boost is not going to keep any traction. So you tend to increase boost as you go up in gears. We brought this bad boy back to life, and not without some of the best creature comforts a street car, not a race car, should have. I showed you many videos ago, this simple feature right here. Okay? But wait for it. Boop. Now, here's the even better part. Boop. Wait, I need to flash my high beams, there's a cop coming. Oh yeah. So in the meantime, we tested the car out at Mile and Drag Strip. Complete failure. The car overheated first of all. Thankfully, nothing permanent. But the anti-lag didn't work, and for a couple small reasons. And so we're going to up some parameters and test that now. So we've got anti-lag to test, as well as boost by gear. Now we do have the gear selection working, so you can, based on RPM of the engine and RPM of the transmission output, you can actually guess what gear you're in within some very solid confidence. A nice feature of the Adaptronic. On first through second, I can make the boost not nearly as obsessive so the tires don't spin. You push it right to the limit of traction. How do you test that? Well, the output shaft of the transmission ties to the RPMs, and you can tell when you're breaking transmission traction. It comes down now to testing anti-lag, or in this case, two-step. So you hear people like myself use them interchangeably, but in this case, I am going to start the two-step, so the second step of my launch, at a lower RPM. We tried it at 7,000, 8,000, and it did not work. It didn't build boost in time. There was no boost whatsoever, so the launch wasn't very particularly interesting. We're going to start it at like 4,000 and see if she builds boost any sooner. We're about to annoy the hell out of my neighbors, taking the car out because they're all retired and have nothing else to do with their lives, and we're just going to idle it, take it out, and see what anti-lag does for us. Currently, because I have no dash ability, I've got this little $150 tablet, 10-inch Windows tablet, that we're going to set up and use as my tach, as well as my speedometer now that I have that working. I can shift at the right RPM, maybe?
So it's possible.
There we go. Unlike that time you dropped it that other day, it scared the shit out of me.
Dude,
What the hell? Why are you going that way?
look at the other side. You just have too much shit.
You watch your mouth, then, man. we being me, not Jarrett, got all these gauges wired back up. The only challenge to that is this cable that goes up to these really short, so I have to like play this just right. Okay, they're all powered up. Couple good things. One is the vehicle speed is properly registering at 0. Our pressure looks good. Coolant temps are great. Currently I have the drag set up at 6,000. I'm going to set it to 5. And so I want to see if we can see launch control engaging. So we'll see it. It'll say, it says it's on. We'll see if it engages. I'm going to see if she builds boost. We had 7 pounds of boost on that. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna get up to 6,000. Oh, that is way cooler. Holy shit. We certainly did the right test on the wrong. Oh Jesus, that is warm. Proper two-step creates an excessive amount of heat, and here we are sitting here trying to test it and overheating the car. So my old two-step did not increase the temperature this much. So I've got some tinkering. I got to tinker with the fuel enrichment and the retarding of the timing. Got some games to play with that. But that's a success. So. We've got two-step. We've got both two-step and anti-lag and boost by gear, and this car is a modern animal. So we're gonna. Oh, that is not good. Okay, so that was quite an impressive trial. We learned some weaknesses. This radiator is far inadequate for the car, much less half of it's covered in good old JB Weld. But the new two-stepping does a couple different things from the old one. The old one was just a pure, insane dump on, off. You had no control over it. This is very impressive. Not only do you feel it ramping up as you get closer to the RPM, but we have full control over what RPM we launch at, which is a two-step type of launch. The amount of heat this thing's generating is obnoxious. It is a very warm day, but I mean, we just saw the car shut itself, limit itself at about 230 degrees Fahrenheit, which is overheating. So obnoxiously hot. I do feel good about making runs at Milan. If you do not have any sort of ducting to your radiator, the temperatures skyrocket even when you're moving a couple miles an hour. It is impressive how much not having an under tray, not having a front bumper, the air is going to take the path of least resistance, and that radiator is resistance. So it is impressive to see how much the radiator loses efficiency when you have no ducting. Let's go ahead and take a look at the logs and see what it looks like to actually two-step on a car and what happens when you modify the settings. It's really neat when you've never done two-stepping before or never tuned it, because it's a tunable feature. And let's see what the logs look like. Let's look at the data. Let's look at the information. Let's look at the way it was done. Let's look at the...
Say it a couple more times.
Yeah, okay. I felt like that was enough, but I guess I'm wrong. So here's my second attempt at testing the anti-lag. Ignoring some of the parameters on the side because this program is a little buggy with labeling. The car is idling, not at 1200 or 1000, but it is actually idling closer to like 700. So it's idling, and as I begin my scaling of RPM, so that's me pressing the throttle and the engine naturally going up in RPM, you see the timing begin to rise. to advance. Well, once it begins triggering, and I think this one was at 6,000 RPM, the timing retards about 30%, but you can see it's a scaling rate, so it's not instant. It's over a percentage of the RPM. So 700 RPM scale is that as you progress further into the pedal, the more it retards the timing. Well, sure enough, retarding the timing, adding about 10% fuel, you can see my boost was initially in a vacuum, and it begins to rise. So I've got about 10 pounds of boost by the end of this here. Now I'm going into this gently. I'm sure if you slam the throttle, you'd get more aggressive sort of ramp up, but that's kind of neat that you can control subtly. You can tune how much boost you launch with. So this is a very impressive system. Of course, the other aspect of it is when you say two-step, this is not 8,000 or 8,300 RPM where my rev limit is. This is 6,000. So it is a secondary step of RPM, specifically for launch.